Okay, apologize for that. It appears that we had some technical difficulties. But just to wrap up my point about the bounties and tokens, it's just it'll be interesting to see which coin or which token survives, because at the present time, as we see it and know it, you know, it's with the regulation that is coming, with KYC and AMLA, and the concern that the SEC, or at least the US and different other countries, have when it comes to ICOs. It'll be interesting to see who survives at the end of the year. And given the fact that so many people have been burned last year with the different ICOs coming out to be outright scams, um, not producing their product or misleading people, it'd be interesting to see who survives, because not everything is going to die or go to null. Not everything is going to cease to exist. Be interesting to see the marketplace gravitate to certain concepts and certain ideas, and who will survive the onslaught. So these are two tools that might be helpful for you when you're out there in the cryptocurrency space to kind of make your decisions. This is called Shebang.io, and it is giving a snapshot of the different Lightning nodes and the mainnet nodes that are in existence, how many of them are doing SegWit transactions, the mainnet Lightning channels, which ones are being funded and per block, how many funds are occurring, the most well-connected nodes, their ideas or IDs that they are, and just giving an idea of the progress. There's 598 nodes. There's 4,156 channels at 596 block height. Every 15 minutes, we take a snapshot of the network and log the results. So they've had 523 SegWit inputs, 9.85% of the transactions are SegWit, 598 Lightning nodes, 4,156 Lightning channels. Max channels funded this block is 15. Again, everyone's saying this, even though there is a mainnet Lightning network up and running right now, they're still trying to develop, they're still trying to work out the kinks. So only, again, just like going out in the world with whatever money you have in your back pocket, only put the amount of Bitcoin you're willing to, I guess you can say, use. So the Lightning network, there is 598 nodes. Bitcoin nodes, global nodes distribution, so bit nodes. How many nodes are there right now? So there are, as of today, 11,152 Bitcoin nodes, and there are 598 Lightning nodes. So we're climbing up pretty rapidly right now. Let me see. I know there is another one. Let me see that. So that's a spread, as you can see, is primarily concentrated in the West, but you're seeing an increasing spread around the world. A lot more in Venezuela, Argentina, South America. Slowly, it's getting up there. Australia, Indonesia, really Korea and Japan are just blowing up right now. Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand. I would love for these two continents really to catch up. Kazakhstan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Mongolia, Russia. I can see it's much closer to the western borders. But it's nice to see that this, compared to last year, has increased. These two areas have increased. This area is getting better. This area could see some more improvement, I think. But it's growing. I think more and more people are realizing how important it is for nodes. we had a dog attack going on. Lightning. I think the spell lightning nodes. Bitcoin. Let's see if there's another chart. Lightning node Bitcoin. Here we go. Lightning Network is so this is a test net, and it has 2,599 nodes, 7,647 channels on the test net, and you can see, wow, how the test net is just kind of way all over the place here. It has a broader scope of people using it, and that's simply because there's not really skin in the game, if you will, factor. You're not losing Bitcoin. You're using test coins and helping develop and seeing what the problems are. But like I said, there's people out there already, taking that risk, and you can use this particular, that shebang site to see. Let's see if the Lightning Network. This is the Lightning Network site. Paper. I just kind of want a map. I know there's another map. Maybe if I just put Lightning Network mainnet. So, wow. Whew. Updated January 28th. Fork forbidden with dataset and minor changes. Let's see what that is. All right. Well, I can't find it right now at the moment, but that's a point of information if you want to kind of see where things are at. Outputs today. Outputs per day is a better indicator of the overall economic activity on the Bitcoin blockchain than transactions per day. Since one transaction can include multiple outputs, the number of total outputs is more important than the number of transactions themselves. Large players in the Bitcoin space use batching, the process of including multiple outputs in a given transaction, to reduce their overall transaction fees. Therefore, looking at only transactions misses an important part of the picture. So we've created outputs today to track Bitcoin outputs. So 7-day average is 480,725. 30-day average is 574.52. Outputs, transactions are this. So the average transaction is 1,525. But if you look at outputs, it's 4,285, and the ratio. Average output to transaction. So for every output, 3.02. So it looks like people are consolidating their outputs, taking advantage of the low transaction fees that are occurring right now on the network, maybe moving to SegWit addresses. Like they said, outputs are what measure your transaction, the fees that you pay. Not necessarily the transaction you do, but the output. So, for example, if you had multiple Bitcoins going into one address, even if they're small, and then you try to send that amount out, is forever, like if you had 6 transactions going in to a particular Bitcoin address, and that So 6 transactions totaled up to 1 Bitcoin. And you try to send that 1 Bitcoin out. Well, that 1 Bitcoin out gives you two transactions. So let's say you're doing the whole and you're doing no changeover, right? So you still have to pay the fee, right? So the fee goes out, you're doing the transaction, you have nothing coming back to that address. You're zeroing it out. Well, the weight of that Bitcoin is those 6 transactions that make up that 1 Bitcoin. That's how you calculate the fees. And if you're trying to batch or trying to, I wouldn't say obfuscate, but you're trying to make sure that you're making the smallest amount, you might take like a bunch of addresses at one time and push them out. And that's what they're trying to calculate, because what they're trying to see is what are people doing with their Bitcoin. Even if you can send all your transactions to one address, and that really doesn't mean anything. You can just be consolidating your stuff. You're not spending or doing anything or sending to an exchange. I mean, these could be a bunch of exchange transactions. These transactions when they batch them out. So, but if you look at the outputs and you see that there's like 100 outputs in this one transaction, then you can see that it's an exchange moving activity, or it's a business moving activity, or it's Coinbase sending out people's Bitcoins to the various Bitcoin wallets. So it kind of gives an indicator, a better indicator what's going on the blockchain, was being moved around. And I guess that is a bit of important, but considering we haven't closed the loop, we don't have a unit of account right now. All it is really is people either buying, trading, and holding Bitcoin. The storage value aspect of it. And I'm not sure how much weight or value you can give to holding something. I mean, it's nice that Bitcoin has a great storage value and is great for being the digital gold, but if you want to be the economic powerhouse that is transformative and allows people to have sovereign wealth, then you need to have unit of account. You need to start measuring and valuing things in Bitcoin and Satoshis, if you will. So it'll be interesting to see when Lightning Network really gets going, if we start seeing some unit of account, if we start seeing an increase in spending like we did very early on in the Bitcoin game, where people were buying things, posters, t-shirts, houses, property, cars. Property seems to be going up quite a bit, which is good, because property is also another form of storage value. And it is an economic indicator, and it does have a display of wealth factor to it. But things like purchasing food, electricity, gas, the essentials, I think would be a very stronger indicator of the overall value, and really would place cryptocurrencies on the global theater, really cement it, if we begin to see that type of activity. If people are getting, people are already getting paid in Bitcoin, but if they're able to pay for the essentials like rent, food, cigarettes, alcohol, the big indicators really of some kind of market movement on this small scale that everyone uses, then I think we would have people will then really start beginning to fear Bitcoin, because at that point it's functioning as a currency, it's functioning really at all different levels of the economy. And because it's decentralized, because it's distributed, because no central authority has any control over it, even with the AML and KYC implications with exchanges, you can't tax it out of existence, and you can't push it out of the marketplace. At that point, it is going to have to be dealt as a currency. It's going to have to be dealt with as an economic force. So that is it. On to the main story. So what made me think of SCIHUB was, one, there was a story about SCIHUB, but there was this story here that popped up in my feed, and it's from Torrent Freak. And it kind of made me concerned with the people behind SCIHUB. but we'll get into that in a second. So, a man handed a conditional prison sentence for spreading popcorn time information. So, if you don't remember popcorn time, I believe it was either a fork or a. Okay, it's going to announce here. But popcorn itself was a Netflix like torrents site that allowed you to be able to download movies and TVs very effectively, very efficiently. It was basically the UI was very much like Netflix, and that's why everyone was using it. And it got shut down very quickly, very rapidly. Um, the NPA just slammed on it. There's many copycats of it, and it really did kind of change for a brief moment the torrent world because of the efficiency in UI and the ability for people to find what it is they were looking for. But it got shut down so quickly, it was kind of sad. But here we go. So a man from Denmark was handed a 6 months conditional prison sentence for spreading information about popcorn time. In what is being described as the first for Europe, the man was convicted after telling people how to download, install, and use the movie streaming service. He was also ordered to forfeit $80,000, 83K in ad revenue, and complete 120 hours community service. In August 2015, police in Denmark announced they arrested a man in his 30s said to be the operator of Popcorn Time focused website. PopcornTime.dk was subsequently shut down and its domain placed under the control of the state prosecutor. The Danish state prosecutor for serious economic and international crime is presently conducting a criminal investigation that involves the domain name, as you notice in the site reads. As part of the investigation, the state prosecutors have requested a Danish district court to transfer the rights of the domain name to the state prosecutor. The district court has complied with the request. In a circumstance like this, it's common to conclude the site was offering copyright infringed content or software. That wasn't the case, though, not even close. Popcorn Time DK was an information resource offering news on Popcorn Time related developments, guides, plus tips on how to use the software while staying anonymous. Importantly, Popcorn Time DK hosted no software, preferring to link to other sites where the application could be downloaded instead. They did prevent an aggressive prosecution, though, and now, 2.5 years later, the verdict is that it is bound to raise more than a few eyebrows. On Wednesday, in a court in Odense, Denmark, handed the now 39-year-old man behind Popcorn Time a 6-month conditional prison sentence for spreading information about the controversial movie streaming service. A senior prosecutor, Dort Kohler Destin from, I can't say that name, State Attorney for Special Economic and International Crime, who was behind the criminal proceedings, described the successful prosecution as first of its kind moment for the entire region. Never before has a person been convicted of helping to spread streaming services. The judgment is therefore an important step in combating illegal streaming on the internet and will reverberate throughout Europe. According to the statement from the prosecutor, the 39-year-old earned 506,000 Danish krone in advertising revenue for the website in 2015. In addition to forfeiting the amount and having his domain confiscated, the man will also be required to complete 120 hours of community service. The verdict is a clear signal to those who spread illegal pirate services. The film industry and others lose billions in ad revenue each year because criminals illegally offer films for free. It's a loss for everyone and also the consumer. The convicted man now has 2 weeks to decide whether he will take his appeal to the Østre, one of Denmark's 2 high courts. I hope he appeals. So basically, by informing people how to utilize the service, free speech, he is going to jail. This is why many people are against the NPA, against copyright in general, because basically they are utilizing the court system to criminalize content, and it's beyond ridiculous. So this is another Torrent Freak article, and this made me very concerned for the people behind SCIHUB. I know that they are in Russia and they're kind of protected, but given what has already happened to a number of different individuals that are associated with pirating digital content, if you will, or distributing information, and may be very concerned about the fate of the individuals behind SCIHUB. So, if you're unfamiliar with SCIHUB, let me see if I can find if they have a site still up. So this is their site, and basically, as they say, is a global science and technology provider, provides free access to research articles and the latest research information without any barrier to the scientific community. Our internationally recognized publishing program covers a wide range of science and technology disciplines. So, about us, kind of reminder. I've talked about them on the Word for the Metaverse as well as Musicians in the Shy podcast. So, SciHub publishes the highest quality journals and delivers the research to the widest possible audience. We achieve this by working closely with our society partners and authors and subscribers in order to provide them with publishing services that support the research they need. Is this Science Hub? Is this the right one? Let me go to their Twitter handle. So basically, what they have done is because so many, even though a number of academic and scientific researchers have began to, wow. All right, so that is going to get deleted. All right, so let's see if we can get. We're at the right SciHub. So on Reddit, okay, there's a SciHub. I'm going to delete from the show notes. I apologize for that malicious link. I thought I had the correct one. Obviously, something happened. That is not cool. No. I just have to switch Twitter back again. Okay, so 1012 SCIHUB. Currently working links. Okay, so SCIHUB dash to remove all barriers in the way of science. So open. I have no idea what that other site was. That was not them. So the first pirate website in the world to provide mass and public access to tens of millions of research papers. A research paper is a special publication written by scientists to be read by other researchers. Papers are primary source necessary for research. For example, they contain detailed descriptions of new results and experiments. Papers we have in our library are more than 64 million and growing. At this time, the widest possible distribution of research papers, as well as other scientific or educational sources, is artificially restricted by copyright laws. Such laws effectively slow down the development of science and humanity. The SCIHUB project, running from the 5th of September 2011, is challenging the status quo. At the moment, SCIHUB provides access to hundreds of thousands of research papers every day, effectively bypassing any paywalls and restrictions. If it were not for SCIHUB, I wouldn't be able to do my thesis in material science, research related to the structure, formation, and aluminum alloys. Alexander T. Sci-fi ideas. Knowledge to all. We fight inequality in knowledge across the access across the world. The scientific knowledge should be available for every person, regardless of their income, social status, geographical location, etc. Our mission is to remove any barrier which impedes the widest possible distribution of knowledge in human society. No copyright. We advocate for the cancellation of intellectual property or copyright laws for scientific and educational resources. Copyright laws hinder the operation of most online libraries illegal. Hence, many people are deprived from knowledge while at the same time allowing right holders to have a huge benefit from this. The copyright fosters an increase of both informational and economical inequality. Open access. The SCIHUB project supports open access movements in science. Research should be published in open access, i.e. be free to read. The open access is a new and advanced form of scientific communication which is going to replace outdated subscription models. We stand against unfair gain that publishers collect by creating limits to knowledge and distribution. The project is supported by user donations. Imagine the world with free access to knowledge for everyone. A world without any paywalls. Donate for this vision to become true. Make your contribution to the battle against copyright laws and information inequality. Even the smallest donation counts. Send your contributions to this Bitcoin address. And it's right there. So join the fight. Okay, so what ended up happening and what made me think of the people that are behind SCIHUB is that Cloudflare, which is an important, service that protects websites from DDoS attacks, had to terminate their service to SCIHUB. So Cloudflare has terminated service to several domain names of SCIHUB, which is often referred to as the Pirate Bay of Science. The C&D provider was compelled to take this action in response to a permanent injunction the American Chemical Society obtained late last year. While Cloudflare previously objected to similar requests, there's no sign of protest this time around. While SCIHUB is praised by thousands of researchers and academics around the world, copyright holders are doing everything in their power to wipe the site from the web on the Spire Nesto. Following a 15 million defeat against Elsevier last June, the American Chemical Society won a default judgment of $4.8 million in copyright damages a few months later. The publisher was further granted a broad injunction requiring various third-party services to stop providing access to the site. That included domain registers, hosting companies, and search engines. Soon after the order was signed, several SCIHUB domain names became unreachable as domain registries complied with the court order. This resulted in a domain name whack-a-mole, but all this time SCIHUB remained available. Last weekend, another problem appeared for SCIHUB. This time, ACS went after the CDN provider Cloudflare, which informed the site that the court order requires the company to disconnect several domain names. Okay, so last weekend another problem appeared for SCIHUB. Okay, so we got Cloudflare had received the attached court order to terminate the service. Cloudflare actions are significant because the company previously protested a similar order when the RA used the permanent injunction to MP3 Skull case. Oh, I remember MP3 Skull. 1 second. Okay. Man, I remember MP3 Skull. And compelled Cloudflare to disconnect the site. The CD provider refused. The RA argued that Cloudflare was operating in active concert or participation with the pirate. The CDN provider objected, but the court eventually ordered Cloudflare to take action, although it did not rule on the active concert or participant part. In the SCIFIHUB case, the active concert or participation is also a requirement for the injunction to apply. While it specifically mentions IPSs and search engines, ASIC's director Glenn Ruskin previously stressed that the company won't be targeted for simply linking users to SCIHUB. The court's affirmative ruling does not apply to search engines right at large, but only to those entities who have been in active concert or participation with SCIHUB, such as websites that host ACS content stolen by SCIHUB, Ruskin told at the time. Cloudflare does more than linking, of course, but the company doesn't see itself as a web hosting service either. While it still may not agree with the active concert classification, there's no evidence that Cloudflare objected in the court this time. As for SCIHUB, they have to look elsewhere if they want another CDN provider. For now, however, the site remains widely available. So, SCIHUB themselves tweeted that this is not critical, but may cause a short pause in the website operation. So, this made me think with the two rulings here in America against SCIHUB and what has already been happening just in general against pirates from either the Cody cases that have been going on or the recent case in the Netherlands I just read, that basically this individual probably cannot travel into Europe or any country that will extradite to America. Which is very sad because all she is doing, all anyone is really doing, is providing information freely for everyone to use. It has enabled and allowed for breakthroughs in medical science, is allowed for researchers in other countries to be able to actually conduct research. It's not cost prohibitive for them to do so because their university or their country is incapable of paying for the type of services required to fund companies like Elskin and the American Chemical Society. It has prompted more and more people to who do conduct research to give their papers open access. Currently, right now, Germany recently canceled for all their universities their subscription services to a number of different I guess academic subscription services just because of the fees. They're unwilling to pay that exorbitant cost and are using their withdrawal as a negotiating tactic to get, maybe I guess you could say, a better or fair price. So this is a Verge article. I'm just gonna have a link in the show notes, but Alexander Isman is the woman that's behind SCIHUB, and basically, it kind of summarizes the case again that was for the publisher Elsfin, and what's going on with SCIHUB. But there was a number of different inaccuracies in The Verge, and this is not surprised by that is the case. Open for Science is this is also another link that I'm not going to get into, but you can read at your own pleasure. Is about looking into the Pandora's box, the content of SCIHUB and its usage. So it's basically an academic paper, part of Open for Science. It's kind of breaking down, is SCIHUB actually benefiting science in general with this open source material? But SCIHUB themselves, particularly, I'm never going to say her name properly, but Alexander Albanka had some things to say about this article. tonight is just not the night for me to record anything. Twitter, what's happening? So that is not what I want. Let's just go to my favorite person on Twitter right now. Coiners. So okay, so corrections to the Verge article about SCIHUB in 3 parts. So part 1. So this is from it's on engine running. So it took it took quite a time to proofread the very long Verge article about SCIHUB, open access, and about me as a SCIHUB founder. Contrary to some opinions, the piece is not at all comprehensive and is omitting many important SCIHUB ideas. The article is a result of a long Skype interview in Russian language back in December 2017, and there are quite a bunch of mistakes and misrepresentations I feel necessary to address. Since the article is long, I will split the corrections in 3 parts. So this is why I'm not even reading the Verge article. In cramped quarters at a Russian higher school of economics shared by 4 students and a cat sat a server with 13 hard drives. I was a master's student HSE in 2012 to 2014 and was living in a 2-bedroom room with a single roommate and without a cat. I got a cat later in 2014 when I moved out from HSE. But even after receiving the "you have been sued" email, Espan was surprisingly relaxed. She went back to work, she was in Kazakhstan, and the lawsuit was in America. It was in 2015 when I received this and I was in Russia. The last time I encountered the distribution of scientific articles and sharing, it was in 2009, as Ben says. A student doing research at the Russian Academy of Science, she ran across an obstacle encountered by students the world over: paywalls. Not true. I ran on paywalls while working on my research project in spring 2009 in Kazakhstan. I learned how to get around paywalls then. In summer 2009, I graduated from university, and in fall 2009, I moved to Russia and got some kind of a job in Russian Academy of Science. That was the first time when I visited Russia. So when Ivanka found herself facing paywall after paywall, she began to wonder why she shouldn't just jump them. Not very accurate. I was accustomed to downloading everything on the internet for free. So when I first encountered paywalls, I immediately started Googling where these papers can be downloaded for free. I was extremely surprised and shocked that there was no website, no torrent with these articles. I've been following the open access movement and was an ardent fan of the MIT's OpenCourseWare initiative, through which the university makes virtually all its coursework available since 2008. I do not remember I was following open access movement in 2009, but I knew about the open science idea according to my emails already in 2008. However, I do not remember where exactly I learned about it. I was subscribed to many science blogs and Google Reader, though. In 2011, she attempted to create a Russian language PLS-style open access journal. Later that year, Ivanka even applied to the Slovakia Initiative Center, the Russian self-styled answer to Silicon Valley. I attempted to start the journal in fall 2010 and filed an application to Savanka in spring 2011. To Abanyan, science thrives only when scientists shout their discoveries to everyone. I do not remember where I exactly said this, however, I agree that the science should be widely spread. It's a concept that she came to borrow from the 20th century American sociologist Robert Merton, who founded the sociology of science, the study of science as a social practice. I did not borrow this from Robert Merton. This is a very well-known concept in former USSR countries. See the poster from USSR which says the science and communism are inseparable. Going further, most influential to Ivanka were mentors' norms. I got to know about rubber inventor much later in 2016. I was very inspired and surprised by the fact that these ideas do resonate with SCIHUB ideas. Balkan's scientific communism mirrors the Western association between democracy and information openness. I remember I was very fond about the idea of democracy as a kind of a collective problem solving in 2011. However, later the word democracy was discredited and it got bad meaning as a kind of a political doctrine used by Western countries as an excuse to attack and destroy other countries. Balkan, on the other hand, wants open access fees cover up front in research grants. I would say that research grants is one of the many possible options to compensate for editors' work. But the 25% of users from wealthy countries who says that the SCIHUB is a tool of convenience, says James Millen. How does it follow? Even in so-called wealthy countries, only elite universities have full access to science. SCIHUB can be used by many other people who are not members of the elite as a necessary means to access papers and not as a tool of convenience. Before Amoga was a pirate, she was an aspiring scientist with a knack of philosophizing and computer programming. I've always been a pirate. She often shared these books with other users on Russian biology forums. She frequented RU, which would provide delayed groundwork for SCIHUB's debut. I frequent these forums, and it was essential for SCIHUB to start up. However, I never shared any ebooks there. The work united. That worked well until the domain libgym.org went down, deleting 40,000 papers among I collected, probably because one of its administrators died of cancer. This is wrong. The libgym.org domain was operating. It will only die in 2016 after a Elsevier lawsuit. What happened is one of the hard drives used by Elgym died, perhaps because of overheating, and 40,000 papers were lost. One of my friends suggested to start actively collecting donations on SCIHUB, she says. Yes, but that was a year before the trouble happened with libgym in 2012. Abunkin precisely denies this and briefly said that many academics have been offered the long-gate information. What I've always said is I cannot disclose the source of the library accounts used to download papers, and I agree that some accounts could come from various sources, including illicit ones. That is, and nothing else I said on this matter. Elfers was aware that SCIHUB had paid some students for access to the university credentials, and several PayPal payments have been sent to Abunka for buying a proxy server. Also, to become aware about this from SCIHUB website, SCIHUB had a domain section where all the donations and expenses were listed. I did this because I wanted SCIHUB operations to be open and transparent to users. With PayPal now closed to her, she simply turned to Bitcoin donations to keep feeding SCIHUB's growth. It has been mentioned that Bitcoin is one of the ways to collect donations, but it's never been an alternative to PayPal, which is the easiest and most convenient way. People donate to PayPal 10 times more frequently, if not more. Make this. I'm going to share this. Add login. I'll do that at a different time. Thank you, WordPress. So, second part. So there's been some controversy with the Dynasty Foundation and its linkages with various different types of groups. But let's see what she has to say. So this is the second part. In May 2015, a part of the sweeping efforts to insulate Russia from foreign influence, the Kremlin labeled Russia's only private funder and popularizer of scientific research the Dynasty Foundation a foreign agent. Unlike much of the scientific community, Abunka was happy about the change. This is not very important, but I would question how it was measured that much of Russian scientific community was disturbed by the change. Simply the fact that someone said that it cannot be considered to be statistically significant result. From what I can say, many researchers never heard about the Dynasty Foundation. Even with SCIHUB, some users only learned about the website in 2017. It was effectively a think tank that assisted education institutions that taught modern political science from a liberal perspective in Russian schools, including Obunkas. This was essentially what qualified as political activity. I attended the lectures, and from my point of view, they were political propaganda, not academic lectures. On the very first lecture, the professor said that those who supported Putin has a lower IQ than those who opposed him. I got very interested with the honest curiosity asked after the lecture, where I looked up statistics. The professor replied, "I made it up. Happened this today." I wouldn't be surprised, but in 2012 was very disturbed by such answers. The professor left to Washington to watch elections over reading a few lectures. Excuse me. What I especially found nasty about Dynasty and its followers is the fact they were trying to misrepresent political activity as pure academic research. Many scientists protested, but Abaka didn't understand the outrage. As far as she was concerned, Dynasty, particularly through his funding of the LMF, had spread propaganda against Putin and the Russian authorities. That quote is obviously taken from my short article about Dynasty in SCIHUB's social network group. Here is what that article in full translated to English. It is noted about the inclusion of Zim's foundation and Dynasty's a list of foreign agents on the internet. Many politically biased information appeared on this topic and what had happened. In Russia, starting from 2012, there's an amendment on the law about NGOs, according to which organizations that A, involve political activity, B, receive funding from abroad, have to register as foreign agents. The law does not require stopping the activity. There is a special notice that scientific activity does not count as political. Such law is not a purely Russian invention. The similar laws about organization of foreign agents are working in the U.S. After examination of the foundation, the Ministry of Justice stated that Dynasty conforms to the criteria listed and is a foreign agent. For example, the Dynasty Foundation is one of the main sponsors of the Foundation Liberal Mission. The foundation supports, develops, and promotes the liberal ideas. In the Russian reality, that means supporting Udamine protest and propaganda against Putin and Russian authorities. In one of his interviews, Zim openly says, "Of course, I've been to Baltania and to Macedonia where protests took place. Right after I interviewed, I will drive to the Rain TV channel, the political opposition outlet." Zim's son, through his foundation, Zcash, sponsored oppositional media such as the Rain. What do we have? In this case, Zim's foundation only sponsors science, and only science. Nobody would recognize it as a foreign agent. By the way, last year the foundation spent on science about 170 million rubles. Compare this to the government expense to science for basic research. In the following year, it planned to give about 130 billion rubles for citizens' applied research, 2 times more. That's it. I didn't even attach an image to illustrate the article as I did with most other posts. I wrote this very short, concise piece to say that SCIHUB's position to show that Dynasty was actually involved in politics, and as a result, eventually got restricted. Because in other sources, the events were misrepresented, everyone's writing about how innocent and purely scientific initiatives got restricted because of government stupidity. However, the Dynasty Foundation was never pure science, and I found myself obliged to disclose this fact. I told The Verge about this. The result of this short and not very harsh criticism was an outrage. The Verge writes that many scientists protested. However, the protested many scientists were not scientists, but politicians who supported Dynasty's activities. Even people from Ukraine posted many comments. I deleted all those comments I found offensive and removed such people from the SCIFIHUB's social network group. She describes Sim's work through Dynasty and the organization itself as anti-communist, though she's vague about how. Balka says the foundation and SCIHUB are ideologically opposed. That's true. I view SCIHUB as a communistic initiative. SCIHUB opposed intellectual property and research articles that publishers hold. Research papers are common and not the property of some publisher. Even further, SCIHUB opposed exploitation of some researchers' labor and restrictions of masses from knowledge. The Communist Revolution opposed. Zim, as I understand from his interview, hated the USSR, and Zim was publishing Richard Dawkins's books and was supported by some fanatic atheists, and I'm not an atheist. Taking all that, I had no reason to love Zim and his ardent supporters, and many others in Russia too. However, my criticism was not based on the ideological differences. I simply know the fact that true Dynasty was involved in political activity was wrong in disclosing that. So she began to write posts presenting instances of Dynasty supporting liberal-leaning groups. She asserts that she did not want to argue any kind of side, but the post read with surprising acrimony for someone essentially claiming to be objective. She dubbed Dynasty supporters the Brigades of the Dynasty, and she also reshared negative articles about Dynasty that were written by state-controlled media outlets, and even shared her Photoshop pictures doctored to cast them in a blatantly suspicious light. Where did the journals take this information from? There was only 3 posts published about Dynasty Foundation, the SCIHUB group. The first post was a short and concise note saying that Dynasty was actually a very political organization. The other post was a quote from Vera Missin, a Russian researcher who supported Dynasty to be considered a foreign agent. I think we did everything right because the activity of the foundation was ambiguous. Our science and young researchers will not lose anything without the foundation, she said. The quote was followed by a poll: should science be international or not, because governments are competing with each other. Most users voted for the first option. I never asserted that I'm trying to be objective. However, I did not find anything especially bitter or acrimonious in the post. What was acrimonious in the reaction, for example, is someone characterized by vehemence as a bitch and whore. SCIHUB, on the contrary, did not use such kind of criticism against opposition, nor was calling them having low IQ, mad, or retarded. The cyberbullying started even before the first post about Dynasty and SCIHUB group was published. I shared my opinion in another group that promoted Richard Dawkson and skepticism. I was told in obscene words that Dynasty is much better than SCIHUB, and after I posted SCIHUB, the insults increased. So I created a poll. I wrote about being bullied and asked users to vote what will be more damaging for Russian science to lose, SCIHUB or Dynasty. SCIHUB won 80-20. After that, Dynasty supporters started flowing into the group, and the final result became 70-30. I removed the poll from the group afterwards, but you can still find it on individual user pages to check. So, where did I say this? Practice on private chat. Alright. So yeah, the Dynasty theme is, something they got tagged with, and it was unfortunate. Because there's no dilemma. Oh, okay. So there's that. Alright, so let's kind of go back. There is no comprehensive attack on Dynasty by SCIHUB, as this article is trying to represent. I only shared the fact that about Dynasty's involvement in political activity, and even that was a very short and concise. Shortly after something strange happened, many of the former members of SCIHUB's group said they simply got booted for supporting Dynasty. That is a blatant lie. There are people who simply said that Dynasty was a good foundation, helped Russian science, etc., and such opinions were never deleted and were never the reason to ban users. I said this before inside our group, but my voice was never heard. One scientist, Dmitry Pokhon, of some institute, said I'm going to ask her group to vote on which was better for Russian science, SCIHUB or Dynasty, and I wrote that it was a false dilemma and was immediately banned. Because there was no dilemma, the poll was simply asked users to estimate on their opinion what would damage the Russian science more, the shutdown of SCIHUB or Dynasty. Where is the dilemma? Even further, the person is a liar. There is a big difference between asking what is better and what would be more damaging to shut down. I could comment much more completely on the unethical behavior of Dynasty supporters in this conflict afterwards, but enough. I sometimes think that perhaps the people were not the true supporters of Dynasty. They simply used the foundation as an excuse to attack SCIHUB. They never tried answering the criticism of Dynasty Foundation with arguments, only with insults. Ultimately, I'm going to shut down SCIHUB in Russia for several days. That did not happen immediately. The Dynasty supporters attacked me for 2 years after this conflict happened. Even though the government was behind the closing of Dynasty, they never tried to stop the war. Those people who ardently supported Dynasty still work in the government-funded institutions, have good salaries, and receive prizes from Russian government. On the other side, SCIHUB has never received any support from the government, even though it was, by the opinions of many researchers, a very important project to help develop science. That and other reasons, such as the new laws restricting freedom of information on the internet, led me to shut down SCIHUB in Russia as a sign of protest against all that is happening. This is somewhat similar to Wikipedia shutting down the website when they protest against SOPA and PIPA. And the third part. So the final corrections on the Verge article about SCIHUB. Still a bunker worried about their extradition. I don't know about stories where hackers that left Russia or Ukraine for Europe or the United States were unexpectedly arrested. Being unexpectedly arrested and being extradited are different things. I worry about the former, not the latter. I know that elsewhere filed a civil case, but who knows what can happen in case I visit the U.S. She also made SCIHUB inaccessible to Americans except those using VPNs, in part because of the number of download requests, but also because she wanted to avoid being the target of lawsuits. True, the SCIFIHUB was not operating in the U.S. when it just started, a few years ago, to avoid being noticed. The article leaves impressions that this is happening as if it was happening not a few years ago, but recently. Amalka says that she couldn't pay the $15 million even if she wanted to, as she's getting only a few thousand a month in donation. Not true. I told them the $15 million is much higher than all the sums the SCIHUB received and spent in the few years of existence. The expenses of SCIHUB were a few thousand USD per month, and I counted expenses, and I never counted the donations received each month. She may be undercounting. One 2017 PeerJ study estimated that SCIHUB owed 268,000 unspent Bitcoin as of August 2017. The Bitcoin was cheap before and only recently starting from 2017 and explosive grew in price. In 2016, one Bitcoin cost 800 USD. SCIHUB worked from 2011 at the time Bitcoin cost only 5 USD. Though Asbunko would publicly disagree with the estimate. She says she hasn't said how much she owns of Bitcoin. That's a misunderstanding. I disagree with the donation in general, not with the Bitcoin estimate. Okay. So, I wonder how much Bitcoin they do have. Let's see. So, copy blockchain. So that's a lot, to break down for an article I didn't even really read about SciHub. But the reason why I was a bit of concern is normally you see these kind of ramp ups in media awareness of a particular controversial subject when the company is about to go down. And I fear that maybe something is going to happen. Now, she has already stated that she's deeply concerned about being arrested. Not unexpectedly, but being extradited, because that has happened. And even though it's a civil case, it could easily go, or pressures could occur to make it a criminal case. That hasn't quite happened yet, but it has happened in other nations. We've seen it happen to the Pirate Bay guys. We've seen the pressures with Kim.com. Who else? There's been a number of several cases throughout the years, and it's just a matter of time, really, that we may even actually see a criminal case against her. So that's why I'm bringing this up, because it is a bit of a point of concern for me personally, because anytime I ever see anything pop up in mass, and this kind of mass is a big Verve article, you have the Torrents articles happening, you have kind of like a little background noise about SciHub, it makes me concerned that maybe something is coming down the pipeline towards her, some kind of criminal indictment or action. Because these things, it's not coincidence. It's not something that just kind of happenstance. It's all kind of orchestrated in a sense. So this is a SciHub Bitcoin address. They have received a total of 91 Bitcoin. Their final Bitcoin address, so 0.618. Not a full Bitcoin. Let's see. Wow, look at how many transactions. 1372. Copy. Bitcoin to USD, just to see off the top of my head. I say it's probably around $8,000 right now. what that is worth. Okay, 6,000. Way off the mark of Bitcoin. So this is just, it's important because we speak of open source, we speak about being revolutionary in this space, we speak about doing things that will free the world of information, allowing people to have control of their sovereign wealth. Well, knowledge is also a way to help people control their sovereign wealth. Many of the different Bitcoin projects or cryptocurrency projects are open source. You can go to GitHub. You can go to a number of different projects, download the GitHub, read the white papers. It's freely and easily distributed. It's actually very unusual for a particular cryptocurrency project not to have their stuff open source. And people are very distrustful when the material is not open source and people can see things. And I'm kind of shocked about the lack of support. I would imagine they would have had more than 91 Bitcoins in total, but that was over through time. Hopefully, maybe this might make some awareness of the project. Maybe, I don't know, Pineapple Fund or maybe whatever it is that Brock Pierce is doing his $1 billion giveaway. Maybe they'll kick something to SCIHUB and help them continue forward. But it seems to me personally, and I know they probably receive PayPal donations and some other forms of donations. It seems to me personally that, like I said, it just something triggered me with the Torrent Freak article already, um, the Verge article, and then the correction happening that something was coming down the line. And I just hope something's not. I mean, this is a really strong, resourceful site for people to use. It just is. And it would be unfortunate if it were to come down. I do think that maybe they might have to migrate to one of these decentralized, sites. ZeroNet, which is something that comes on the top of my head. Um, Maybe Steam It. I'm not sure. There's a few that are out there, but I don't know if they're as robust or even can handle the type of traffic that a SciHub would bring to it. But if they were able to, I don't know, store it on storage or something like that, it would, I think, raise the profile to any decentralized platform out there that's looking to decentralize content or storage. Um, I personally, if I were in charge of something like that, like a project like that, I would go to some of these very viable, very strong products out there, like a WikiLeaks or a SciHub, and say we can decentralize your information to where nobody be able to shut it down. We can back up and store your stuff where no one's able to get access to it. And if you want to bring something utility, see how you can try to take something down like SciHub or a WikiLeaks that's completely distributed and decentralized across the internet. And just like Bitcoin, with that type of security model, you're not able to take it down. And how are you going to get to it, really? All right, so one last article. It's a bit of a amusing article. It's, time for tinfoil hat time. Time to get our tinfoil hats. really don't know what much more to say about SciHub other than if you have some Bitcoin or if you want to put your name out there, you can donate from PayPal. I highly encourage you to, go through the site, navigate it. You'd be shocked and amazed with the depth of knowledge that they have on their site of the various different academic articles and research that is out there that you can obtain the information for. So, tinfoil hat time. It's from Market Watch, and a lot of people are having jokes on Twitter about this. So here we go. And Reddit and all the forums. Anonymous trader buys 400 million in Bitcoin. So go big or go home. That's the motto of one mysterious investor who put his chips on the table, buying close to $400 million of the number one digital currency, Bitcoin. The purchase comes as cryptocurrency is making a comeback after a dreadful start in 2018. The major digital currency lost as much as 50% to start the year as growing regulations and security fears crippled the market. It's not quite what happened. A lot of people cashed out because the top was close to 20. Taxes, I guess you can say. People are in the year buying. Might be some market manipulation. A lot of noobs were in the space and they just weak hands, I guess. They bought the FUD, but the people that have been here for a while, many of them, held on, bought the dips, if you will. The price of Bitcoin has increased more than 60% since trading under 6,000 on February 6th, pushed back above 10,000, helped by signs of growing recognition of digital currencies and officials in Washington. Not sure who that big buyer was, but many have bought this dip and have added since the rebound additional regulatory clarity in the US and Asia. The unknown trader with the Bitcoin address purchased the coins between February 9th and 12th, taking his Bitcoin balance from 55,000 coins to more than 96,000 coins. The transaction, which was blasted over social media and online chat forums, emboldened bulls who argued that 6,000 was a bottom. In the meantime, the $400 million whale in fuel for the Telegram channels, Telegram's another outlet, if you will, where traders lay out their conspiracy theories, says Jeff Cohen, president of 360 blockchain. However, I'm willing to believe that seeing the bottom around 6,000, the Wall Street smelled blood and jumped back in, he said. With Bitcoin back above 10,000, the owner of this address is closing down the Bitcoin Billionaire Club. So let's go back to Bitcoin blockchain. Explore. Let's go to SciFIHUB. So let's put this. Hi Falcor, are you joining our You join our tinfoil time. So is received a total of 105,000 Bitcoin, sent 9,000, balance here is still this. Advanced details. This looks at advanced details. Unspent outputs. Let's see when this address was created. Input. So value. Output. Input. This page is no public metadata. I'm sure that's going to change. Someone's going to say Bitcoin will or something like that. I think this is the one I want. I want the one that gives me the chart. So yeah, people are saying that this is Wall Street buying the dip, that it's the whales and we should be worried about some kind of bear trap, that they smelt blood and they're coming for trying to dominate the Bitcoin cryptocurrency space. I'm not sure I would buy much into that. I think Wall Street is still very weary of Bitcoin. I know a lot of young traders are in the space, but the big boys, I'm not sure if they're really quite as in it as everyone says they are. Let's see. So it's received 111, spent 5, a total of 116 transactions. Mining fees 0.2212 BTC. First seen September 8th, 2017 at 9:34 a.m. Status is very active. It is $1 billion in USD. That's an overview, transactions, summary, detail. So a lot of ones going in. Look at that, 17 outputs. So they do know how to batch their transactions. Ooh, 93 outputs. Back to overview. So that is that address. I don't know. Maybe because it's so new. Maybe you might have some kind of Wall Street activity. Maybe a hedge manager or fund manager. This might be theirs. Total inputs. So it started with and this address was created. 53 Bitcoins. Main chain. Time to confirm after 7 minutes. Inputs fee 0.01. 0.0203 BTC per kilobyte. ACH. Input script. Output hash. Input script. Yeah, this is why people don't like blockchain spies. Don't know. Don't know what to make of it. Could be a head fake. Could be somebody else's account. Could be exchange. Could be somebody new. Could be hackers. But the fact that, 100,000, almost close to 100,000 Bitcoin gives you $1 billion status. Whew. I'm sure there's a lot of people wish they held a lot longer than they did. Let's look at the richest Bitcoin addresses out there. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. So Bitfinex Cold Wallet has 150,000 BTC. It's been identified. Someone's still up at 160,000. Well, I remember at one point there was someone with 900,000 BTC, but that doesn't seem to be the case any longer. A lot of people have less than 0.001 Bitcoin. That's 54.75% of all addresses. Only 2 addresses reached close to that. I guess you could say $1 million mark. $107 between 10,000 and 100,000. A lot more between 1,000 and 10,000. More 1 to 10. So the number varies. Number 1 is this one, which has its BTC. Wallet 3654374. Wonder what that means. So first outs, first ins. Almost 1%, I guess, of coins. Top dominant for 5 years. Let's see that. Nope, that's funny. They're asking the translation. Oh, dormant for 5 years. Fee. I wonder if that means like that's the 967th wallet created. Well, it was created back in 2010. So maybe that's what that means. So that was my, tinfoil hat. The fact that people were a little freaked out by this. But it should be expected. People are going to buy the dip. When it went down to about 6,000, there was a mad rush of people purchasing. We've now, I guess you could say, hit the 10,000 wall. We're probably going to be there for a while, at least for Sideman movements, to see how long that while will be. It might drop, it might go back down. Who knows? I wasn't going to talk about price, but, it is what it is. People have been asking for Wall Street money for years. Now that it's here, people are freaking out. I guess it's one of those, you get what you wish for. As whether or not that's actually Wall Street, who knows? It could be someone consolidating their funds. It could be, like I said, a hedge fund. It could be a whale. It could be a business. We really have no idea of knowing it until they reveal themselves. And the whole point about controlling your own bank, controlling your own wealth, is people are not really supposed to know who you are, what you're doing, what your holdings are, where they're from. Try to get that privacy control. Even with all these blockchain explorers and blockchain spies, hopefully the person is using VPN, Tors, not the same IP address, is on a hardware wallet, or it's backed up multiple places. More power to them. But we'll see what goes on. But that's pretty much it for this episode. I'd like to thank you for listening. Apologize for all the technical difficulties and the pauses. Try to get a better time to where we won't have so many interruptions. But that's it. That's my take on the cryptocurrency space for today. Until next time, this is Roja Shibe. Like, subscribe, comment below, and to the moon. And I'll just go.